No one in the room said anything for about 5 seconds. The longest 5 seconds of my life. I was still sitting on Sean's lap. Sean's hands were still resting on my waist. And 3 guys from the basketball team were standing in the doorway, staring at us like they just witnessed the biggest plot twist of the century. The first one to recover was Ethan, the team center, nearly 6.5 feet tall. "Okay," he said slowly. "I'm going to pretend I didn't see anything." Then Ethan turned and started pulling the other 2 away. "Wait," Sean called out. I immediately spun to face him. "Sean," but he just squeezed my waist lightly, as if reassuring me. The other 3 stopped at the doorway. Sean took a slow breath, then said very calmly, "Cam is my boyfriend." I swear my heart stopped for a full second. The room went silent. Then Marcus, the loudest guy on the team, blinked. "That's it." Sean frowned. "That's it." Marcus looked at me, then back at Sean. "Bro, we thought you killed someone in here." I burst out laughing, completely caught off guard. Sean's eyes went wide. "You asshole." Ethan broke first. "Dude, the whole team's known for ages." "What?" Sean literally only talked about Cameron for 3 months straight. My face went hot. Marcus nodded with great solemnity. "You look at him like a golden retriever looks at its owner." "I hate you guys." "No, you're in love." Marcus shrugged. "Different thing." I buried my face in Sean's shoulder out of sheer embarrassment. And that idiot just laughed, completely delighted. Everything turned out to be so much easier than I'd expected. No big drama. No one reacted badly. No tearful coming out scene like something from a TV movie. People just knew. And life went on. That lifted a weight off me I couldn't even put into words. A week later, Sean held my hand walking across campus for the first time in broad daylight. I was so tense my hands were ice cold.
"Come, Sean Lauged."
"You look like you're heading to sentencing." "I'm just not used to it." "Okay." He stopped in the middle of a crowded path and raised our joined hands, pressing a light kiss to the back of mine. "How about now? Are you insane?" "Deeply." I tried not to smile and failed completely. That was always what Sean could do. Pull me out of my fear with that near impossible ease of his. December in Berkeley was cold and heartbreakingly beautiful. Campus was strung with golden lights for Christmas. The cafes started selling peppermint mochas. Every student was stressed about finals, and I was falling hopelessly in love. I realized it one evening when Sean fell asleep in my room. He was lying on his side in my bed with a business textbook open on his chest. Hair a complete mess. One hand loosely wrapped around my wrist as if afraid I'd disappear. I watched Sean for nearly 10 minutes, thinking only one thing. I'm done for. There's no coming back from this. I love him. Not the kind of love that tears you apart. The kind that makes the world feel softer, just because that person exists in it. Sean stirred and opened his eyes. "Why are you staring at me?" "I was thinking." "Dangerous." "I was thinking you drool in your sleep." "Liar." I laughed. Sean pulled me down beside him and buried his face in my neck, utterly lazy about it. "Stay. I have edits to finish." "Your edits can't hold you." "Good argument." "I know." He looked up at me, blue eyes still hazy from sleep.
"Come."
"I love you." I went completely still. Sean said it as simply as if he were asking for a glass of water. But my heart nearly burst. "What did you just say?" "I love you." He smiled softly. "Pretty sure that's not a secret anymore." My throat tightened, because no one had ever said those words to me like that. Not dramatic, not trying to impress, just honest enough to make my heart ache. I reached up and touched his cheek. "I love you too." And the smile that crossed Sean's face in that moment is probably something I'll carry with me for the rest of my life. Right before winter break, the school held a winter formal. I hadn't planned to go, but Sean practically dragged me there. "You need to live like a normal college student." "I am living." "Cam, you spent 7 hours color grading a 5-minute short film. Art takes sacrifice." "See? Weird." I went anyway, and God help me. Sean wore a black suit. Nobody had prepared me for that. He stepped out of the dorm with his tie loosened just slightly, hair swept back, shoulders broad enough that the suit looked like it had been tailored for him specifically. I stood there for a few seconds, unable to move. Sean raised an eyebrow. You just undressed me with your eyes, didn't you?
No. Come.
Maybe a little. He laughed and pulled me in close. You look good too. I'm just wearing a regular suit. Yeah. Sean studied my face. But you're Cameron. My heart melted for the 1000th time. The party was held in a large ballroom near campus. Golden light reflected off the wooden floors. Slow music drifted through the room. Couples swayed together in the warm winter air. I didn't know how to dance. But Sean pulled me out onto the floor anyway. I don't know how to dance. I know. Then why? Just trust me. He placed one hand on my waist and laced the other through my fingers. My heart immediately went haywire. Sean. People are watching. So?
I'm nervous.
Something in Sean's expression softened. He dipped his head, pressing his forehead lightly to mine beneath the slow music. It's okay, he murmured. I'm here. That one sentence was enough to dissolve every trace of anxiety in me. We started moving slowly with the music. Calling it dancing was generous. Really? Mostly Sean led while I tried not to step on his feet. But the feeling of it, being held in Sean's arms beneath those golden winter lights, close enough to hear his heartbeat, it was beautiful enough to feel almost unreal.
Come.
You remember that promise we made when we were kids? I laughed quietly. Again. I'm serious. I looked at him for a moment. Yes. He smiled just barely. Good. Why? Sean didn't answer right away. He just looked at me with an expression so deep it made it hard to breathe. Then he said softly, because I think, someday I want to make it real. My heart stopped. What? Not now. He laughed at the look on my face. Jesus Christ, Cam. You look like you're about to faint. You just said you want to marry me. I said someday. We're 19. And I stared at him. And the most frightening thing was, part of me didn't think that was crazy at all. Not even a little. After winter formal, I started noticing something dangerous. Sean talked about our future like it was simply a given. Not in a heavy or pressuring way. Just naturally. We should get a dog someday. You're definitely not picking the furniture for our apartment by yourself. If we have a big kitchen, I'll actually learn how to cook properly. At first I just laughed it off. But little by little, those small things made my heart go softer. Because Sean never said, if. He always said, when. As though it had never once occurred to him that we might end up apart. Winter break arrived, and most students went home. I stayed in Berkeley a few extra days to finish my end-of-semester project. Campus was unusually quiet. One evening I was sitting in the editing room when Sean appeared with 2 takeout boxes and a very grave expression. I have bad news. Did I fail a class? Worse. I looked at him warily. Mom wants to FaceTime you. How is that bad news? She misses you more than she misses me. I laughed. Sean set down the food and settled beside me on the editing room sofa. Actually, he said, there's something I want to ask. His tone was different enough that I closed my laptop. What is it? He was quiet for a moment, as if choosing his words carefully. Spring break, Sean said slowly. Do you want to go somewhere with me? Like a vacation? Yeah. Just the 2 of us? Obviously. My heart gave a small leap. I thought you were going back to Seattle. I can do that after. He shrugged. I'd rather go with you. I tried to seem calm while internally screaming. Where did you have in mind?
No idea.
He smiled. Road trip? Cabin? Beach? We'd be arguing within 2 hours on a road trip. Worth it. I hate you. No, you don't. Completely true. We ended up renting a cabin near Lake Tahoe for spring break. 3 months out, Sean was already excited like a child on Christmas Eve.
Come.
Imagine waking up next to me with snow outside. Are you trying to seduce me with weather? Is it working? Unfortunately, Sean laughed and pulled me into his lap right there in the library, earning a scorching glare from the girl at the next table. We're being hated, I whispered. Jealousy. So confident. I have a hot boyfriend. I pressed my face into his shoulder to hide my smile. February passed faster than felt possible. Between coursework, projects, basketball games, and the nights we fell asleep side by side, I got used to Sean being woven into everything. It was strange to think that only a few months ago I was still afraid to like him. And now, I couldn't picture my life without him. And maybe that's why what happened at the end of February shook me so badly. Sean had an away game that day, so I was alone on campus. Around midnight, I was editing video when my phone started buzzing. Marcus calling. I frowned and picked up. Hello.
Come.
Marcus's voice was tight in a way I'd never heard before. Don't panic. The blood in my body went cold instantly. Where's Sean? It's not serious. He spoke too fast. He just dislocated his shoulder during the game. I shot to my feet. What? The doctor said he's fine. Where is he? I practically ran into the hospital at nearly 1 a.m. Sean was sitting on an ER bed with his right arm in a temporary brace, hair completely disheveled, wearing the guilty expression of a puppy that had destroyed a sofa. The moment he saw me, he immediately said, I'm fine. I hate you. That's not a greeting. I walked closer and looked at his shoulder. The anger in me dissolved almost entirely, leaving only that unpleasant, hollow fear sitting somewhere in my chest. Does it hurt much? Not really. Marcus, standing nearby, immediately fake coughed. He was swearing the whole ride over. Traitor. I laughed despite myself. After Marcus and the others left, the room grew quiet. Sean looked at me for a moment, then said softly,
Come.
I'm sorry for worrying you. I sat down beside his bed. I hate that feeling. What feeling? Thinking something serious had happened to you. The look in Sean's eyes went gentle immediately. He reached up with his left hand and touched my face lightly. I'm fine. Yeah, but I still couldn't quite breathe right, because for the first time I understood something frightening. I loved Sean so much that the thought of losing him sent me into a panic. Sean seemed to know. Come here, he said quietly. I leaned in closer, and just like that, Sean kissed me very slowly. A kiss that tasted like hospital antiseptic and faint mint from a cough drop, but somehow still made my heart hurt in the best way. I love you, Sean whispered against my lips. I closed my eyes. I know. Hey. Look at me. I opened my eyes. Sean smiled softly. I'm not going anywhere. Spring break finally arrived. The cabin we'd rented sat near the edge of Lake Tahoe, surrounded by pine trees blanketed in white. It looked like a postcard, and it was absolutely freezing. I can't feel my feet anymore, I muttered, dragging my suitcase through the thick snow. Sean walked behind me, laughing. California boy can't handle a little cold. We are literally standing in the middle of ice. Cute though. You flirt so much. Because it works. The infuriating thing was, he was right. The cabin was small but impossibly cozy. A stone fireplace, a big sofa buried under wool blankets, floor-to-ceiling windows looking straight out over the misty lake. The moment we stepped inside, Sean wrapped his arms around me from behind. Okay, he said close to my ear. This is officially the most romantic place we've ever been. We're 19, and already winning. I laughed and turned to kiss him. The kiss deepened quickly as Sean pulled me against him. His warmth was a complete contradiction to the cold outside. Bedroom? Sean murmured. My heart leapt. It wasn't as if this was our first time being intimate, but this was a cabin with just the two of us. No dorm. No voices in the hall. No one to interrupt. Just us. And the look in Sean's eyes right then was dangerously soft. I swallowed. Okay. Sean's smile changed immediately, quieter, gentler. He pressed his forehead to mine. Hey. We can go slow. Something in my chest pulled tight. Because even though Sean flirted constantly, In the moments that truly mattered, he was always so careful with me it was almost hard to believe. I nodded slightly. I know. Sean went completely still for 2 seconds. Did you just call yourself? I know, in a way that sounds like. My face burned. Oh my God. I'm taking that to my grave. Shut up. But Sean just laughed and pulled me close again, like I was the most precious thing he'd ever held. The first night in the cabin was the kind of memory I knew I'd carry for a long time. Not because of anything intense, but because it was so gentle it almost hurt. Snow falling outside the glass. The fireplace crackling softly in the corner. Golden lamplight falling across Sean's face as he looked at me like I was the only person in the world. We lay on the large bed under heavy blankets, legs tangled together beneath the warm fabric. Sean gently brushed my hair back from my face and asked quietly, "Nervous?" "A little." "Me too." I laughed in surprise. "You?"
Come.
He raised an eyebrow. "I'm cool, not a robot. I've never seen you nervous." "That's because you've been embarrassing me this whole time." "Good." Sean smiled and leaned down to kiss me, slowly, patiently, as if he wanted me to have enough time to feel every moment. No one had ever been this gentle with me before. His hands always paused to check in before going further. His eyes always lingered on my face as if making sure I was still okay. And that undid me completely. "Tell me if you want me to stop," Sean murmured. "I don't want you to stop." He looked at me for a long moment, then kissed me deeper. Outside, the snow kept falling, and I thought, if this is a dream, I never want to wake up. The next morning I woke before Sean. Pale winter light filtered through the curtains, settling over his sleeping face. I watched him for a long time, chin resting on my hand, golden hair a complete mess, long lashes casting shadows on his cheekbones, one arm still draped around my waist on instinct, infuriatingly handsome. As if sensing my gaze, Sean stirred and opened his eyes. "You really are a creep."
I'm admiring article.
"Wow." He laughed, voice rough from sleep. "How many people has that line worked on?" "Just one." Sean pulled me closer and buried his face in my neck. "I don't want to get out of bed." "That's because you're lazy." "That's because my boyfriend is very comfortable to hold." I laughed and ran my fingers through his hair. That moment was so peaceful it made my chest ache. I was beginning to understand why people always say real love lives in the small things. Not fireworks, but waking up beside someone and thinking, I want every morning to feel like this. That afternoon we drove down to the little town near the lake. Tahoe in winter looked like something out of a Hallmark film. Shop windows strung with warm lights. The smell of hot chocolate and cinnamon drifting through the streets. People in heavy coats laughing under a gentle snowfall. Sean held my hand the entire time. At first I still noticed people glancing over. But Sean didn't. Not at all. He just naturally wove his fingers through mine, pulled me closer whenever the wind picked up, and every so often bent down to press a quick kiss to my hair in the middle of the street. "I don't understand how you're not embarrassed," I said while we waited in line for coffee. "Why would I be embarrassed?" "Because you're so openly affectionate." Sean looked at me like I just asked the stupidest question of my life.
Come.
I like you." "Yeah. I want people to know that." My chest went soft. I turned away to hide my smile. "You are genuinely an introvert's nightmare. And yet you love me." Unfortunately, that's completely true. On our last evening at Tahoe, we sat on the cabin's porch wrapped together in one large blanket. The dark surface of the lake in the distance reflected the faint glow of the moon. It was cold enough that my hands were going numb. But Sean was so warm. "I don't want to go back," I murmured. "Same. We should just stay here forever." "That sounds like the opening of a horror movie." "I'd die happy." Sean laughed and pulled me in a little tighter. Then he went quiet. For a long time, I glanced over and found him staring out at the lake, something turning over behind his eyes. "What is it?" What are you thinking about?" Sean hesitated for a moment, then said, "The future." My heart gave a quiet, painful squeeze. "Is the future scary?"
No.
He turned to look at me. It's just the first time I've really wanted someone to be in it with me. The air was still for a few seconds. Wind moved softly through the pines, just barely audible. Me too, I said quietly. Something in Sean's eyes softened at once. Yeah. I paused, then finally said the thing I'd been thinking for months. I've never felt this way about anyone. Sean looked at me carefully. What way? Like it's easy. I smiled a little. Like we were just supposed to be here together. Something shifted in Sean's expression right then. So soft it was almost painful. He lifted my hand and pressed a light kiss to my cold, stiff fingers. I've thought that since I was 8 years old. My heart melted entirely. We returned to Berkeley just before the new semester began. And right on cue, life decided to throw its first real test at us. I got an email from the film department, a summer internship program in New York. One I'd applied for months ago and nearly forgotten about. 3 months working with a well-known indie studio. The kind of opportunity that could change the entire trajectory of my career. I should have been out of my mind with excitement. But when I read the last line, required summer relocation to New York City, my stomach dropped because Sean already had plans for the summer. He was going back to Seattle to intern at his uncle's company. 3 months, opposite coasts. I stared at the email for a long time before Sean walked into the room. Hey, baby? He stopped when he saw my face. Whoa, what happened? I handed him the laptop. Sean read the email in silence. My heart beat harder and harder. I know we haven't been together that long, I said quickly. And long distance can be really hard, so if you
Come.
I stopped. Sean set the laptop down and stepped in front of me. Why do you look like you've just been handed a prison sentence? I'll be in New York all summer. Yeah. And you'll be in Seattle. Correct. I looked at him, full of dread. Sean blinked a few times, then laughed, completely disbelieving. Oh my God. What? You genuinely thought I'd be upset because my boyfriend just got his dream internship?
Come.
He lifted my face up toward his. I'm proud of you. My throat tightened. But long distance. Then we video call. Sean, you think I'm going to let you walk away that easily? I laughed even though my eyes were starting to sting. This infuriating person really did know exactly how to break my heart in the best possible way. Sean pressed his forehead to mine. Take the internship. I'll miss you. I know. A lot. I'll miss you too. He smiled softly. But Cam. We already lived far apart for years and still found our way back to each other. He squeezed my hand. 3 months is nothing. The moment I truly understood that Sean and I had grown up was when we started learning how to love each other even from a distance. That sounds impossibly sentimental, but it's true. May arrived faster than I expected. Campus was full of students scrambling for finals, music drifting across the lawn, groups of friends sprawled in the sun as if no one wanted the first year to end. And I was standing in the middle of my dorm room surrounded by suitcases, feeling equal parts excited and hollow. I hate that you're leaving, Sean said, stretched out across my bed. I'm going to New York, not shipping off to war. Still dramatic. I learned from you. Sean laughed and held out his hand. Come here. I went to him immediately, and he pulled me onto his lap like it was the most natural thing in the world. I have something for you. You sound like a sugar daddy. I wish. I laughed as Sean reached into his hoodie pocket and pulled out a small box. My heart jumped. Sean, relax. He grinned. It's not an engagement ring.
Jesus Christ.
Yet. You absolute. Sean laughed so hard his whole body shook, then opened the box. Inside was a simple silver chain. The pendant was a small circle, engraved in writing that looked painfully handmade.
Come, Sean.
I stared at it for several seconds before I started laughing in disbelief. It looks like it was engraved by a raccoon. I made it myself. That explains everything. Ungrateful. But my eyes were starting to sting. Sean looked at me, and his smile went quiet and gentle. So you can take me to New York with you. Something in my chest pulled tight and stayed that way. I love you too much, I murmured. Good. He leaned down and kissed me softly. That's the plan. The day I left California, Sean drove me to the airport, and I swear he was more upset than I was. You'll be fine, I said, standing in front of the security checkpoint. I won't. Sean, I'm going to die of loneliness. It's 3 months. Forever. I laughed helplessly and pulled him close. The airport was packed, announcements echoing overhead, but the moment Sean's arms came around me, everything went strangely quiet. I'll call you every day, I said quietly. Promise. Promise. Sean looked at me for a long moment. Then he took something out of his jacket pocket. The old plastic ring from years ago. I went completely still. Oh my God. I want you to take it with you. Sean. If you lose it, I will cry. I laughed even though my eyes were burning. This is literally a vending machine ring. Symbol of our love. You're genuinely not well. And you love me. Unfortunately, absolutely true. I held the small ring in my palm and looked at Sean. The person I'd promised to marry when I was 8 years old. The person I'd lost for years and somehow found again. The person who right now was looking at me like I was the most precious thing he'd ever had. I grabbed his collar and kissed him right there in the middle of the airport. Someone nearby let out an ah. I hated that. Sean was smiling brilliantly when we pulled apart. You just gave us an audience. Shut up. I'm going to miss you. This time his voice was smaller, quieter, more real, and my heart ached instantly. I will too. New York in summer was brutal, loud, crowded, chaotic, nothing like California. But I loved the work at the studio. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was genuinely walking toward my own dream. The days were long enough to drain me completely. Filming, editing, racing deadlines, learning from indie directors I used to look up to like gods. And every night I called Sean on video, without missing a single day. Some nights he picked up eating cereal. Some nights he was lying on the sofa watching NBA. Some nights he called just to watch me work in silence because he missed my face. You're genuinely clingy. I hope you know that, I said one evening. I'm providing emotional support. By staring at my face for 2 hours? Exactly. I laughed and kept editing. Sean watched me through the screen for a long time before asking, Are you happy? I stopped. Yeah. Good. What about you? I miss you. My chest went soft. But, I asked, but I like watching you live the life you wanted. I was quiet for a moment, then smiled quietly. I might actually marry you someday. Sean nearly choked laughing.
Come.
I'm serious.
Jesus Christ.
He shook his head, laughing despite himself. You can't just say things like that casually. Why not? Because I'll believe you. The silence that followed was long. Not awkward, just a very real. 3 months finally passed. I flew back to California at the end of August. And Sean met me at the airport with a bouquet embarrassingly large enough to be its own event. Oh my God. I stared at him. Are you a rom-com boyfriend? Yes. Sean. You love it. He was right. I really did. He held me right there in the middle of the crowded terminal. This time I was the one who didn't want to let go. Hi, Sean said softly against my ear. I missed you. I missed you too. He pulled back and looked at me for a moment, then smiled. You're more handsome than before. I'm literally the same person. Nope. He shook his head. You've got a New York filmmaker thing going on now. I will punch you. Violence. Hot. I laughed for the first time since getting off the plane. And in that moment I knew. I was home. Sophomore year began. Then junior year. Life changed faster than felt safe. Sean moved into an apartment off campus with a few friends. I was there so often I practically lived there too. We argued for the first time about dishes, about deadlines, about the fact that Sean was impossibly messy. But every single time it ended with one of us laughing first. Or kissing first. Usually Sean. One evening late in junior year, We were lying on the sofa watching TV when Sean suddenly said,
Come.
If we actually got married someday. I laughed immediately. Again. I'm serious. I know. Sean turned off the TV and looked at me. This time his expression was completely serious. I'm not saying now. He took my hand. I just want you to know I haven't changed my mind. My heart beat hard enough to hurt. 10 years ago, two kids standing in the summer sun with a toy ring made a promise to each other. And the person in front of me now was looking at me with exactly the same eyes as that day. Except this time we both knew what love actually meant. I squeezed his hand. Okay. Let's see where it goes. Sean laughed in disbelief. Let's see where it goes? I'm trying to play it cool. You failed. Before I could argue, he pulled me down and kissed me. Outside the window, Berkeley's city lights glittered in the night. And I found myself thinking, maybe my mother was wrong. Some childhood promises do sound ridiculous. But sometimes, they become the truest thing you'll ever know.